Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another awesome Carolina Snowflake Meetup Group event. Today, we are going to be talking about Snowflake Alerts. So all of our previous meetups are recorded, and we have those available on our YouTube channel, which you can find in the Meetup discussion board if you're interested in going back and checking out any of those. Today, we are going to have a brief Snowflake refresher and talk about Snowflake Alerts, what they are, the use cases and benefits for them, and Christian will be providing a quick demo. All right. So what is Snowflake? For those of you who aren't familiar with Snowflake, it is a cloud-based data warehousing platform for businesses, and it's known for its scalability, flexibility, and high performance. It supports AWS, Azure, and GCP, and it enables you to pull data from all of your sources into the cloud for a single source of truth. And that way you can kind of get a holistic view of the business. You can also pair it with your favorite BI tools for analytics. All right, now let's talk about Snowflake Alerts. So Christian, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, absolutely, Heather. So Snowflake Alerts do we use it in the plural? Do we use it in the singular?
They
It's
are.
I know it's always interesting, but so Snowflake Alerts are really a newer integration inside the Snowflake ecosystem. It allows you to set up fairly granularly this ability to monitor and react to events and really almost anything you can monitor or query with SQL, you can apply to Snowflake Alerts so that you can be notified from that type of activity on a scheduled frequency. So common use cases are things like maybe querying the query tables inside of Snowflake and monitoring it there, so forth and so on. Looking at detecting different types of events, whether that be user logins, long-running queries, changes to warehouses, really anything you can look at the Snowflake query engine, if you will, to identify any types of prompts or things that you want to be surfaced through the Snowflake system. And then you can apply an alert on top of that, almost similar to this old concept, if then that. So in this case, we're going to see this in the code, right? If this, then do this alert. So that's really, really interesting, right? So we can detect critical events. We can take action to ensure smooth operations are happening inside of the Snowflake environment, and to some degree externally, if you're thinking about external functions and things of that nature. But it's going to allow Snowflake customers and customers of Snowflake customers to build robust monitoring and other notification solutions that really meet that specific business's requirements. And so what's nice about this, and I was thinking about this the other day, Snowflake is becoming more like the Twilio for data, right? They're providing capabilities that in and of themselves seem to be like one-off nice solutions that relate to data. But then when you put them together in the aggregate, what they're doing is they're really providing this capability around data for other companies to build to build solutions off of, so they can build their own platforms based on the capability that the Snowflake platform has. And so we've seen this with Twilio, we've seen this with some other platforms. It's actually pretty exciting what they're doing as they're moving still with their core and their base of obviously cloud data warehousing, but all these new accoutrements really are allowing for these use cases that we're talking about here to be going super wide across industry for those companies that can really think of a way to develop this into their own architectures. But equally so, it's working for the individual enterprises and companies that say, hey, yep, we need a data platform, Snowflake's in the cloud, some great use cases just for storing and retrieving data. And now they get all these new shiny bells and whistles as well. So very exciting times. Jump to the next slide there. Great. All right. So I think I highlighted a couple of benefits around the Snowflake Snow Alerts. So you can get basically real-time notifications. Obviously, your mileage might vary there depending on what you're trying to accomplish. We'll look at the frequency capability. Proactive monitoring, again, using kind of the brass tacks, the baseline concepts inside of Snowflake already. Streamline incident management, operational efficiency, or at least awareness of it, but definitely gives the ability to kind of take action based on alerts, more data-driven decision making. And then, people like this topic, cost optimization. We have our own perspective on cost optimization inside of systems. We think customers should be looking to increase their capacity, increase their spend inside of the cloud data warehouse system. So, but lots of benefits here. You can definitely fine tune the optimization of how you're using the environment, but cost isn't always a factor, especially when you're trying to achieve great things. But either way, Snow Alerts can help realize certain things inside of the existing ecosystem for your account. So there's great benefits here through Snow Alerts, and we've obviously been able to realize some of these ourselves. So very, very good stuff. Yeah, next slide. So we knew this would probably be just a short meetup this morning, and if anybody has any questions and everything, we'll definitely get to those. So let me jump over to a quick demo here, and this is going to be one of those where I will kneel in front of the demo gods this morning, and hopefully everything goes the way I think it should. We put together just a nice little script, tried it out a couple times end to end. Actually, one of our other folks has done that. So let me see if I can share correctly here. Click escape on that. And let me see, any questions before we pop up the share? Anybody have anything? All right, let me see, share. All right, it's going to capture a portion of the screen. I'm doing something new today, folks. I'm trying to use this portion capture of the screen here, and let's see if this works. Is that an effect? What is that? All right, can you guys see my desktop at all? Can you see me share?
Yep.
Okay, good to know. All right, so what we have is just a very little script here. We always try to add in some nice notes and commentary, not only for ourselves, but when we post this out to our GitHub and share it amongst the masses, we want people to kind of understand what our logic is doing. They don't have to watch the video to stay up to speed or follow along with the actual code here. So we're going to do some very basic stuff at the beginning here. We're just going to, we're going to use sysadmin. We're going to use an existing warehouse we've got a database for our meetups we call DemoDB. And then, we'd like to go and create a schema. Again, won't go into great detail, but some of you might be familiar with quite a bit of the objects that are created inside of Snowflake rely at the schema level. So we'll go ahead and make sure we create a schema, and then we'll make sure we use that schema. Right now, I'm using the new Snowsite, I guess, interface. Everybody who's listened to these meetups with me on there before, I am still a big fan of the old original Snowflake UI console. I'll probably be that way for at least another few years. But my team has convinced me to switch over and start using the new UI. So although reluctantly, we've been doing a lot of work with Snowpark. Anybody else been doing work with Snowpark? It's a great addition to Snowflake. So you're going to see a lot of stuff from us in the next couple months over Snowpark. We think we're becoming and have reached kind of expert level there, done some really cool migrations off of Python. So anyway, that's one of the main reasons I've been switching over to the new UI. All right, so let's get back to the topic at hand. Okay, we're talking about snow alerts. All right, so one of the first things, and our team goes back and forth on this, but we used to go back and forth, but we've identified is this idea of a notification integration. Now, we could be wrong here because snow alerts are still fairly new, but Really, you need to create a notification integration to get things rolling. Now, you could do this in a different sequence than what I'm showing you here, just based on the content of what I'm showing today. But a notification integration is going to do a couple things. We're setting up that integration as email type. We've enabled it as soon as we created it. And we've immediately put in, which I think is a required attribute here, we've put in email recipients. So here you can see we've got Anupov, who's a superstar on our team, and then we've got notifications at ASD. Okay, so this is important because down further in the code, I'll point it out, you need that notification reference to the notification integration object name for some of the alerting capability to work. We'll look at that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to just create that object, get it out of the way. So let's do a create and replace on that. And then move down. All right, just to integrate support name. Okay, I'll come back to that. I think I might have to bump this up to account admin real quick. And let's do that. Told you, where are those demo gods when I need them, right? So we'll go ahead and, okay. Oh, not validated current. Okay, so I'll play with that in a minute, but should be set up though. All right, so we'll move down a little bit. And then we'll get here to event log. So what we're going to do is we're going to create more of a system with our snow alerts. And by system, what I mean is we want to make sure that we can put events into a table and then using a snow alert. And then at some other interval, we're going to send those events to our notification integration team here. All right. And so we're going to walk through this process. So I've created my notification integration, which I'll come back to. You saw theirs. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create my event log table. So let me just go back up here real quick. I'm just going to switch back my role here to sysadmin. And yes, I could press command enter to just run the command directly that's highlighted, but I'm going to go up here to press play every time. So here I can go ahead and go and create that table, use my create or replace. Hopefully things are okay. Oh yeah, okay. So success, it wasn't an error that time. All right, so that's going to give me a table. Now this is completely arbitrary at this point. I'll make sure everybody understands this, right? This could be a third normal form type configuration we're putting together, or it could be just a one-off, really kind of denormalized, if you will, table. It's just holding a set of events for us to reference. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create what I'm calling a recipients table. So now I could create a separate table that allows me to put emails in there based on the event. So let's say my event log table is storing all types of events, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Well, we can talk about them now, actually. So one of the events I'm going to create that I want to store in this event log table is when there is a long running query. If you've been a Snowflake user for a while, or rather you have people using, consumers using your Snowflake account, they're really actually, accessing your data. They're doing all sorts of events and workloads in your account. At some point, you're going to encounter a long running query. I would say if you never account one, maybe you're not doing something right, but it just happens, right? And so we want to capture if there's any long running queries. We want to store that as an event. The next one that we want to store is when somebody changes a warehouse. So they basically do a resize on the warehouse. So yes, those events are actually captured inside of Snowflake. So we're going to capture that. We're going to store it as an event. And then later on, we're going to create an alert that says, hey, were any of those events logged? And since we've given them basically an identifier like long running query or large warehouse resized, then a certain notification team will be notified about that, right? So let's go ahead and insert these email addresses, if you will, into that event recipients, basically reference table, if you will. So could do a better job with the naming of that table. For reference tables, maybe we'll typically do like event underscore recipients underscore ref or something like that, or lookup, depending on what you like to do with your design. Okay, so now let's get into the brass tacks. Hopefully everybody can kind of see the code okay. Let me just make that a little bit bigger for everyone there. So here's what we want to do. And again, we try to put notes on everything to kind of explain some details. We're going to create an alert, a snow alert. So an alert object inside of Snowflake. So we're going to use our standard create replace. We're going to put our object type here, alert, and then we're going to give it a name. I'm a big fan, even though we know what the object type is, we give it the name, kind of prefix it with what the object name is. This is just experience speaking, 2 decades working in technology, building platforms with different type of objects. I'm a big fan of somehow codifying that. All right, so alert long-running unsuccessful queries. So we've got a bit of a qualifier there. Now we're going to run this in against a warehouse. We're going to provide the warehouse attribute, and then we're going to give it a schedule to run every 30 minutes. All right. And so our logic is going to be very simple. I won't go into too much detail, but the 2 things you want to pay attention to are this first kind of SQL statement, if exists. So if for a lot of us who are familiar with just code development, this is basically an assertion statement. So we're asserting, hey, is this true? If this exists, okay. And what are we asserting? We're asserting if there is, if this returns at least 1 record, right? So if it returns something that's not a 0 result set. So we do a select 1. So we just have to return anything here that's going to relate to true. So select 1 from the information schema query history. And we're basically looking for execution status is success, and total elapsed time, is if it's greater than, and we actually have the math here for you guys. So this is in milliseconds, 900,000 milliseconds equals 15 minutes. So anything greater than 15 minutes is going to get flagged if it's not successful, because you could have some queries that are running that long that are successful, that aren't successful. And then this is a cool point of reference that we found that makes alerts amazing, is it actually looks, if we want to put this against a time coordinates, if you will, there is a clause here, a function, snowflake.alert.schedule time. So again, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. So that is going to be basically, even though we're using kind of an English worded 30-minute interval, okay, and technically cron, right? So it's going to look at that schedule, and when it fires off, it's actually capturing what actual time it has occurred, right? What is that timestamp when this was fired off every 30 minutes? And then you can retrieve that time using this function. So we're just looking for a start time in our query history table that is between, right, the last successful alert time and basically the current time. So it knows when it last ran, the alert last ran, and it knows when it's running exactly right now, down to the millisecond. And so you can use that reference, those 2 functions, so that you're not overlapping your data retrieval in this assertion. A long-winded explanation to get to this, but hopefully this makes sense. So that's something we definitely want to call out, because I think it's an integral part of what makes alerts special in Snowflake right now. So just to recap here, so this is our assertion, right? If this, okay, then now we're going to do something with that. So if this is positive, right? If this is true, there's a failed, 1 or more failed queries that are greater than 15 minutes and failed. Then we're going to go ahead and insert something into the event log table that we created above. So we're going to go and insert a bunch of details, if you will. We do a little bit of object construction here to just kind of get that full message. But what we're really inputting is the time it happened. And then we're going to input like what happened. So you can see this is just in single ticks. So it's a value that we're just doing from a select statement technically. And so that's going to be our value. So basically think of it as our code. And then we're going to get the query ID. So we have some information about it concatenated with kind of a statement. So an English statement here. And we're basically running the same statement here that we ran above for the assertion. So we would have just copy and pasted that, if you will. Now, those records, when this alert runs, will populate our event log table. So we would go ahead and just create this. And again, like anything else, if you have like a stored procedure or something like that, you're typically just going to write your code first, and then you're going to plop that into the object. So I would make sure this works this logic of assertion works outside of the alert, and then I would create the alert with the assertion, and then I would test it. That's what we typically do. The next one we're going to do, I won't go into great detail on this one, is we're going to create another alert. Again, what are we doing with these alerts? We're putting the alert information into the event log table, right? So instead of sending an email here, we're actually using the alert almost like a task so that we can actually put the information inside of our event table. So now we've got another one, alert warehouse resize event. So we're capturing a resize event. We could have done a little different here on the name. We could have said alert resize to, in this case, we're looking for extra large event. And so this is going to basically capture it at a 240-minute increment. So basically every 4 hours, it's going to check. And it's going to just identify any changes that happened. And at that interval, it's going to go ahead and log that history, if you will, of any changes into our event table. Okay, so same thing applies. We're doing an assertion here. If exist, select one with the query that gives us the information we're looking for. We're utilizing the last scheduled time and the current scheduled time and some other information. And then we're going to run it. So I'm going to do the command return here. It's going to run just that block of code. Oops, I've got a missing semicolon somewhere, but let me just go ahead and just fire it off down here. See if that works. All right. So sometimes highlighting is better than running directly. All right. So then the last one. So we talked about Snowpark a few minutes ago, right? Now, what we can do more recently inside of Snowflake is we can actually use Python code, leveraging Snowpark inside of a procedure. That is a mouthful, but that's what we're doing. Now, why are we doing this? This seems extreme. Well, what we're doing is we are creating the ability to send an email by making the call through Python, right? It affords us a few other things that we want to just kind of call out from like a proof of concept, right? Not only can we embed it, but we can actually call the system send email capability from the Python code. Now, one thing I always recommend is that you test your code obviously outside of the procedure. So I won't go into great detail now, but there is now a Python worksheet inside of the new Snowflake UI. So what we do is we take the function here and the code inside of this function. We take that out, we paste that into the Snowflake Python worksheet, and then we actually run our code there first. Handle the parameters and whatever variability, make sure it works there. Then we can come back in here and create a procedure in kind of your standard SQL by adding the correct delimiters, the correct handlers, which packages we're adding. And this is pretty simple right now. We just need the Snowpark Python package, runtime, everything. And then we're able to just create this simple procedure calling the Python code there. And this all happens inside of Snowflake now. So what are we going to do with this? We're creating basically a common table expression that's going to take parameters that are passed through the procedure into the Python function. And then we're going to leverage those to basically do a list aggregation for the emails that are being sent, finding the event types based on the code or the event message. And then we're going to basically summarize those, loop through the list of email attendees and message and send those out to the notification integration we created before. And then we're going to just throw out a log message here that says sent. I typically like a little bit of a longer log message, and I typically like to throw in more of a try catch, if you will. I think that's important in all code. But for this, we'll just kind of move forward with it for the sake of the exercise here. So come back up here, highlight everything. And let's see if I've got the right permissions going on, or if it's going to kick me out. Yeah, sysadmin should do this, no problem. So you can see that this one takes longer than a normal procedure. We've noticed this a lot as we do I'll call it embedding, but really when we use the Python capability to create the procedure. But that's okay. 11 seconds is not bad. Lastly, just to kind of wrap up the code here, what we're doing is we're going to create the actual alert. So everything else above was getting us to the point where we create the actual alert for emailing the events, right? So I think I misspoke earlier, but so this alert is actually going to go through every 60 minutes. It's going to look into the log table. It's going to find logs that are, again, from the last time this alert ran to the current time. And then it is going to then call the procedure. Well, no, I did not misspeak, actually. It's going to call the procedure that's actually sending the email, right? So the procedure here is doing all the work of sending, and then all the other alerts are just supporting, right? So I'll hide this, do this. All right. And then what we want to do is, just in case, we can go back and we can do show alerts here real quick. Let's see what we have set up. So show alerts, just like, we previously, and we still do have show tasks and things like that. So here I can show you guys, we've created the several alerts, like a database there, they're stored in that warehouse. And you can see, very similar to tasks, when you create it, it starts in a suspended state. Now, we did a meetup on tasks many months back. I think it's one of our most viewed meetup recorded videos on YouTube. And we talk about this in greater detail, but I still think it's fantastic, because once I create that, I don't want this thing firing off, every second of every day, just in case I did something incorrectly or somebody was a newbie and they did that. So it's great that if you want this to fire off, you actually have to, get it converted technically over to resume, which is fantastic. So I'm gonna do that now. I don't have the correct permissions, so let me see if I can get in here and do user role. Let me do it. All right, great. So you guys saw that there was obviously a particular grant that was required. Let me actually run that back. See if it'll let me do it. Yeah, so you need the execute alert privilege. Need to get that into our into the docs here for that. But that's going to happen as you're going along. Setting up particular roles and privileges for the people who are developing. Obviously, you don't want everybody to have account admin. But as you're going through this process, right, I would call that out. That we'll put it at the top of the script that whatever user you're using needs to get granted the execute alert privilege to be able to do quite a few of these function calls as we move along here. All right. So now that alert is set, it's going to run every 60 minutes, and it's going to send that email out to that notification chain that we had set up above, or the notification integration. For the sake of time, I'm going to just pause there and see if we have any questions on alerting, and then I might try to actually get this going real world to see if it'll fire off for us. But let me take a pause there. I know that was like 20 minutes of me just going after it. See if there's any comments, questions, or if somebody's on who knows even more than I do about alerts today. Love to hear any commentary from anyone who wants to chime in. So let me pause there.
Thanks, Christian. I don't see any questions yet.
I know I did a very, very thorough job of explaining a lot of the details. But I do love to do that, just to try to highlight, all the nuances of some of these new features. There's so many great use cases. It's so flexible that, I always think things like this that are flexible can really get people into trouble. We've talked to people before, where we've implemented, some amazing enterprise data warehouses and end-to-end data lake storage, data lake analytics, using Snowflake, where, we've gone in and they've got tasks that have been running every 15 minutes, every day for months that are doing nothing, right? And somebody will say, oh, I forgot I even created that. It's not even doing anything, right? So that's why I called that one thing out earlier. And it's interesting, you get a bunch of people, just give them access and they develop things. And, how do you know what's working, breaking, running in the background, or providing any value sometimes? So sometimes it takes a different eye, or you don't know what you don't know. So we're happy to kind of elucidate and go in as much detail as we can when we explore and we find out things. We're happy to share it. So, all right. Well, so that's a quick run through, of course, of alerts and maybe a different perspective than some people previously had about alerts, where, I know when I first started with Snowflake Alerts, my concept, what I had in my head was, oh, great, fun. There's a way to send emails out from Snowflake. Okay, whoop-de-doo. But as you really dig into it and you say, okay, well, this could be used at a different level, even from what tasks are doing, or it can help enable, streams and, other things that you don't think about connecting simple notifications with. But because you have this extended ability to incorporate things like, Snowpark, Python, you're able to use this amazing function here, snowflake.alert.schedule-time. It adds a whole different layer on the use cases that you can solution with this capability. So I will pause there and stop sharing. We'll get back to the PowerPoint here, Heather, and then we can go ahead and start wrapping things up there.
Yep. All right. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to add them into the comments on the video when it's up, or you can shout out to us in the meetup group if you guys come up with any questions after the fact. We do have one question. I believe you can also configure an SNS notification integration and not just an email notification. Is that correct, Christian?
I do believe that is correct. Yes, the notification integration. There's different types that you can connect to. Email seems to be the one on the tip of everyone's tongue, but yeah, I do believe there's a couple other valid types and use cases for notifications. Yep.
That's a good question. Yeah, so we do have some more events coming up. They have not been sent out yet, so we have some surprises coming out there, but we will be hosting a series of AI ML webinars that will not be in our meetup group, but I'll make sure to share that information with you guys on the discussion board so that if anybody's interested in joining those, you'll be able to attend.
Yes. Yeah, and if anybody has any ideas around any Snowpark concepts they'd like to see flushed out, or anything like that, be happy to set up a meetup around that, and we can definitely elucidate around Snowpark. I know that's an exciting new feature for the platform, and we've been using it quite heavily. So happy to dig into some of those different topics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for attending today, and we'll get that video up shortly for you. Oh, hold on. We've got a comment here in the QA. Christian, you want to take this one?
Sure. Let me see. Looking. Yeah. Lanny, yeah. If you want to add some color commentary, I'd love to hear from you. Absolutely.
Let me see if it'll let me unmute him.
I think I got it there.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So you just
nice. Hey, it's Andy. Can you hear me?
Hey, Andy.
Yeah.
Hey, great. I'm Andy Bouts, Snowflake SE and sales engineer, excuse me. And just some color commentary on a couple of things. I saw earlier you ran into a small error where you were trying to add what looked like a service account email address, and it said it has to be verified. There's an actual reason behind that. So we want to ensure that emails can only go from Snowflake to verified email accounts, addresses set up to proper user accounts. That's part of GDPR compliance and some other things that product management has documented and we can make available. But that's the reason. I have been working with product management and for some customers on their behalf, where they want to be able to administratively set up like an email distribution list just for administrators that they can send these alerts to without having to create an account and verify that email address as a user. Product is considering that. So just wanted to share some of the context around why you hit that error, and it's designed on purpose.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I was thinking about that as well. And the one that we had out there is we had 2 email addresses.
Correct.
If you threw it out there at the last minute, not even thinking about that would be because I don't think we even actually tried that before. So that's really, really good to know. Thank you
Yeah,
for
and the
sharing.
error message itself said it needed to be verified. I don't know if you remember or not, but I did
Yes.
see that. So we have good error notification there.
Yes.
Excuse me, but that's the rationale and why.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then we do intend for it to be more flexible beyond just emails. So like SNS notifications that were mentioned. So that's good.
Yes.
And like many things, like I'm not speaking for product or even our future direction, but like many things you've seen, resource monitors, for example, we built a UI around it. So as this feature continues to grow in popularity, who knows, maybe we'll get a UI around it as well.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks for the background there, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us today, talking about Snowflake alerts, and we'll have this video up shortly for you guys on our YouTube channel. And we hope to see you at our next events. Thanks, everyone.